Well, Ulysses, the Tampa Bay Rays somewhat salvaged the 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs with a nail-biting victory on Wednesday afternoon.
It has been an odd series against the Cubbies. May is done, so we're going to talk about May. And we also have a little voice memo mailbag, so let's get started right now.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
And we are the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making us your very first listen every day. Be sure to check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Locked On Rays. We're also on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Rays. And you can email us or send us a voice memo to that email, lockedonrays@gmail.com. Well, the Tampa Bay Rays take down the Chicago Cubs in the third game of the 3-game series by a very close score of 4-3. It took them 5 innings to get their first hit, but they somehow, some way, some fashion pulled out the victory there. And I might add, for all the doom and gloomers that are out there, the Rays are the first team in the big leagues to 40 wins. They accomplished that yesterday. So hopefully a nice little comeuppance for the off day that they have before beginning the weekend series versus the Red Sox.
Yeah, definitely good to see that the boys have kept their longest losing streak to 2, which is impressive. And they were able to salvage that third game on the backs of 2-run bombs by Brendan Lau and Jose Siri. It was an exciting game, a little bit too much edge of my seat for an afternoon game.
Can we get rid of afternoon midweek games, by the way? Nobody can watch those. They're just punting the viewership in the interest, because by the time the game is over, people are essentially still at work or just getting off work and going through their commute. It's a wasted day. I understand it on a more so a Thursday or definitely the weekend, but
a holiday.
A holiday's fine. I can get on board with that, but we got to do something about these midweek day games. It's ridiculous.
It's rough. And then when it comes to game time, 6:40, 7 p.m., you're like, what do I do? And you're like, oh, I don't have any baseball. What do I do? Identity crisis. But no, it was definitely an odd series, man, because I know we haven't had a chance to talk together about this Cup series. Mm-hmm. First game, Stroman you got to tip your cap. I'm sorry. He was awesome. He looked awesome. He looked like a guy that if the Cubs are not in contention is going to be one of the top 3 starting pitchers that could get a haul to be traded, because he has an opt-out this year. So if the Cubs are smart and if Stroman is dealing like that, yeah, you can get a lot of pretty prospects back. So that's how he pitched. He pitched like a guy that a lot of contending teams would really love to have.
No, absolutely. That'd be great for sure. And what's crazy about this series is that it took the 5th inning of Game 3 for the Rays to get their first extra base hit of this series. And thankfully, maybe this is all the boost that Brandon Lau needs, a hanging breaking ball that he lets fly for a home run. So hopefully that gives him a little bit of confidence going forward, because he certainly needs it offensively and defensively, I presume. And that mailbag question that we have, we'll get to later. And then, of course, like you mentioned, Ulises, Jose Siri coming in clutch with the home run there. I do want to touch on the pitching staff. Zach Eflin, he's Mr. at least 6 innings. He has one of the longest streaks of pitching at least 6 innings. I believe it's Logan Webb, who has 9 consecutive outings of that nature, followed by Aaron Nola with 8, and then Zach Eflin with 6, I believe. So money well spent for the Rays. And by my calculation, I believe he had a quality start. And then the bullpen,
Yes.
Poche, Adam, Kelly, Beeks putting zeros on the board, which is much needed for that bullpen.
The bullpen this series was better than we have seen in the past. Still, the walks kind of were a little bit high, but no runs, which is ultimately the big picture, right? Are you allowing any runs? You're not giving yourself any leeway, or you're definitely not giving yourself a margin of error, a large margin of error if you have traffic on the bases. But, again, big picture, focus on the big picture. Did they get the outs? They got the outs. They got the win. It was a rough time there with the bases loaded, and trying to get Yan Gomes out. Man, I really, when that ball came off the bat, I was I was definitely holding it in because it looked like a bases clearing walk off hit, and then that would have made it that both Chicago teams would have walked off the Rays. So again, focus on the big picture. They won the third game. That second game with Bradley, man, Taj is definitely exceeding expectations right now. That's why I don't take AAA stats to court. Don't do it. Don't do it. You don't know what the front office has told Taj to focus on. You don't know what he's going through mentally to be, to feel like, oh, I'm doing my job in MLB. I'm doing it, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, we need you to go down. Like, he's a human being. Like, I think we do a good job in this podcast to stress that these guys are not numbers on a spreadsheet. They're human beings. They have emotions. They have feelings. That's why I love when we have prospects on the show. We try to get to know them as a baseball player, but also as a person. Like, who are they? What makes them tick? What do they like outside of being a baseball player, so that the listener, the fan, can kind of, before they get angry and they go all Mark Topkin reply guy on Twitter, they look back and think, well, this guy could have something in his own personal life that he might be struggling with right now.
Yeah, and not to say this is the case with Taj Bradley, but some guys, when they get sent back down to AAA, it's a case of, I don't need to be here. I'm better off somewhere else. This is beneath me, and I'm just going to bide my time and kind of have that retired on duty approach, just go through the motions. Or sometimes, again, not saying that's the case with Taj, but that's certainly the case with others. Or sometimes it's a prospect that hasn't yet had that call up yet, that hasn't had that first opportunity in the bigs because of service time manipulation, or they're blocked by another player at the big leagues. And it's just, they've kind of hit their ceiling in AAA. It's like, there's nothing else I can really do to showcase myself. I think that might've been the case with O'Neal Cruz before he got called up to the Pirates. Like, his numbers were relatively pedestrian, and that could be the case a lot of times, or sometimes with these guys as well.
Well, that's exactly that. That's just like, not to put names, but I like the comparisons, or maybe like, so people can understand what we're trying to say. But it's tough, it must be tough knowing that, hey, I'm being blocked yet again. Jonathan Aranda, like, I've done nothing but rake this year. You look at his stats; they're good. They're good stats. He has an over 800 OPS. I think his average is over 260 now. But the problem is that he's always been like a 300, 900 OPS guy. So it's like, oh man, he has a down year. Like, no, it's a good year. It's just not as good as what he has had in the past.
If Jonathan Aranda, you probably are going to keep waiting in the minor leagues, because if we've learned anything about the Rays and some of the depth that they've had, it took even Jake Cronenworth, he was hitting 370, 375 in AAA. He still didn't get that opportunity with the Rays. So that could be something to watch out going forward as well. We have more to discuss, but first, Ulises, we have to tell the audience about something very important.
Yes, we do. Of course that we do. Look, we all know that it can be stressful when we want to buy some tickets, right? Either to a concert or a let's say a baseball game, or I don't know. What's the last event that you went to, Kevin?
Last event that I went to. Oh man, it's been a while.
Was it a Rays game?
My fiance went to a concert. Went to a Blink 182 concert, so that might fit in swimmingly with game time.
Perfect. 90s kid, Blink 182. This is perfect. I bet there are a lot of 90s kids and non-90s kids that like Blink 182. Well, I bet that Game Time would be the place for the last minute ticket deals like the Blink 182 concert. You can forget about planning months in advance. If you're a procrastinator, this is a great app for you because Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. They also have a Game Time guarantee. That means that you will always get the best price. It is the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. So today you get those tickets without the stress using Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms will apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. $20 off. Who's going to say no to free money? I'm not. Kevin's not. You shouldn't either. So download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
It seems like there's a lot of negativity on social media regarding the Rays. Again, they're in the driver's seat here. They just wrapped up the month of May, and we talked about how difficult the slate from the competition to the travel scenarios would be. They finished May, according to Baseball Reference, 17-12. No, it wasn't as good as April, 22-6, but 17-12 in Major League Baseball is pretty dang good. That's a .586 winning percentage. You extrapolate that across 162, you're on pace to win 95 games. They had a 95 win month for May when you consider that they had a 10-game road trip and against hardy competition. You're facing the Brewers, the Yankees, the Dodgers, all these other teams. And am I wrong here? Have they not won their last 3 series before the Cubs?
Yeah, and they had a terrific homestand exactly with the Brewers, the Blue Jays, and the Dodgers. It was a tough Cubs series, but again, you're playing at different times. Like, one at 2 o'clock, one at 1 o'clock. The other one at Peacock was 11:30. Then a 4 o'clock Saturday game, a 6 p.m. Friday game. Like, there's been no way to create a routine whatsoever on back-to-back days for this team. And I know that people are like, oh, that shouldn't matter. They're ball players. Like, well, I'd like to see you do your job. One's starting at 11, the other one at 7 a.m., and then the one at 4 p.m. Like, it would be tough.
Yeah,
it would be
I've
tough.
kind of done that before, and it's not easy. No,
it's not great. It's not great. So, having said that, I love that perspective. Yes, we all came into May saying, "Oh, if they can just play 500, I'll be happy." Well, they went 5 over, 17-12. That's a 95 win type month. I love that you put that in perspective. 17-12. Look. They played 16 straight games just now. They're tired as you know what. And they still came out and got that W yesterday. When I looked at a couple of things Mark Topkin said on his Rays Ramblings, I think. Is it Rays Ramblings?
Rays Rumblings, yeah.
Rumblings. Okay, well, close enough.
Part of his Rays Tales feature on Sundays, I believe.
Yeah, he said the Rays swiped 2 bases last night or last afternoon. They extended their team record streak of consecutive steals to 25. They've stolen 25 bags in a row without getting caught. If you didn't hear that in the back, as a team, that is ridiculous. If Josh Lowe goes 25 for 25, we would be like, oh my goodness, this guy's the next Ricky Henderson. If Taylor Walsh would be going 25 for 25, we'd be like, oh my God, this guy's unlocked something incredible. One player we would be so ecstatic about. This is the whole freaking team. This is the whole team. That's impressive, man. And they lead the majors in home runs and stolen bases. This team can do anything and everything. It's incredible.
Yes, it really is, especially when you compare it to the abomination that was the team's base running last year and all the issues that they had.
Woof.
It's totally night and day, totally 180-degree turn, and you hope that it continues for the Rays as well. I know we're not going to have time to get into it, but just something to focus on and marinate on for a little bit is I see reports and news about all-star selections, all-star voting up in the fold. So really curious to see what the team with the best record in baseball, what they pull out with come the all-star break and the all-star game. There could be some tough decisions, and might have a little fun with that later on over the course of this podcast.
You know what we should do to make it difficult on Locked On Rays listeners and
I have an idea.
Is it the same? Like, make them kind of like King Solomon, like choose your baby.
Yeah, my initial idea was you get to pick 3
out of 4
for those 3 all-stars.
Exactly, pick 3. But the thing is, like, we got to give them the 4. Of course, Yandy, Wander, Randy, Josh Lowe. Get rid of 1.
Yeah. Well, I was going to make it even harder. I was going to say 3 include who are the 3 Rays all-star selections going to be? And I would throw Shane McClanahan into the mix. I'm making it really tough.
Oh, with pitchers included? Oh, that's nasty.
So my point is, do you choose between Randy and Yandy? I have my opinions on that.
Yeah, maybe that's a whole nother episode. But I do like this little preview that we're doing here. No, I like that. I also want to
maybe just drop it in the comments of how many all-stars will the Rays have.
Somebody's going to say like 5. It's like, okay, it's not the 2015. It's not the 2016 All-Star game where the Kansas City Royals are just going to run away with it. Like, it's not going to happen. People.
Or every All-Star game with the Red Sox and Yankees where they have like 8 selections and they have a guy who's played like 8 games going into the All-Star break.
Exactly.
And they make the All-Star appearance. So
exactly. Again, we don't have that national love. So it's going to be tough for more than 2 guys, I would think, to get the call.
Yeah. So if I were you, hey, go start creating fake email addresses, dummy names, dummy corporations, do whatever you can. Do kind of a Russian bot scenario and plug in those votes for the Rays players.
Yeah, talk to ChatGPT, ask for it to give you the more efficient way of creating fake emails and voting for all-stars. Last thing about May that I want to get to. Wednesday was the 16th, again, from Mark Topkin. Wednesday was the 16th of the Rays' last 27 games. Okay, 16th out of the last 27 games decided by 1 run. 16 of their last 27 decided by 1 run. Even when they lose, they're right there.
Yeah.
That's how good they are. I just want to stress this team is impeccable on the base paths. The pitching staff, the starting pitching has been incredible. The hitters have done more than expected and lead in basically almost every category that matters. The bullpen is the flaw.
Yeah.
I hope it gets better. I hope it gets better. I like that the Rays front office is actively looking for ways to improve it. They are using, like we said with Evan Kloski, it really looks like just a few guys have job security there in that bullpen. It kind of looks like it's Beeks, Poche, Adam.
And frankly, I mean, if we're mentioning Jason Adam, he was the beneficiary of a bad call. Full count runners at second and third. Ian Happ up. Ian Happ, who walks 16% of the time. I think he has a decent enough understanding of the strike zone.
100%.
And the ump, I think, actually, I may or may not have seen Jason Adam hand the umpire a $50 bill before the game. So, just saying, I don't know if that all adds up. But
hey, finally, the Rays get one, and that's going to even out. But yeah, definitely not a strike. Definitely not a strike. And if you want to be a good baseball fan, a good Rays fan, like there's no reason to be that much of a homer and say, of course just admit it.
Again, if you're flip it the other way around.
Yeah, tell me if you would be upset.
Yandy Diaz at the plate, if it was Wander Franco at the plate,
Mm-hmm.
how would you be feeling about that?
Exactly. So overall, basically my whole point is if everything is working beautifully in every category for the Rays and the bullpen is the weak point, they went 17-12 with a very noticeable weak point.
Yeah.
That's not bad news. That just means if they get better, which we hope that they will, and history tells you that the Rays know how to build a bullpen that works.
Yes.
This is going to get much better. So again, like you said, optimism should reign and chin up, shoulders back. The Rays are doing terrific things.
And I'm glad you mentioned the one-run ball games. Whether you win or lose, you have to be able to handle and adjust to those confines and the difficulty of close games and navigating through that, because come the playoffs, you're not going to have the luxury of facing the Tigers and beating up on them 12-2, or facing the Athletics and beating them 8-1, or facing the Nationals and beating them 7-2. You're going to, I would expect, have a lot of close games, or games that are close throughout the course of the 9 innings. And you have to be able to either come back from down 1 or down 2, or hold that 1 or 2 run lead. So that's a big factor as well.
Especially on the road, Kevin.
Yeah.
Especially on the road, like you have to hold that, right? So if you look at the road record, it's not great right now. It's 14-12. I mean, you want to create a little bit more separation. Of course, the separation has been done at home, 26-6. That's a ridiculous record, which is awesome. But you would hope that the road record gets a little bit better than 14-12.
Yeah. And again, I know that, hey, the Cubs are the cellar dweller in the NL Central, but this isn't the Athletics here. I think they're a little bit better than their record indicates. I think they actually have a lot of underrated players, from Ian Happ to Patrick Wisdom to Nico Horner to guys like
Seiya Suzuki.
Yes, Seiya Suzuki. I mean, there's a lot of guys on that roster that don't get talked about or get the attention. Not saying they're all stars, but solid pieces. Like Ian Happ reminds me of Ben Zobrist, and like just never is going to get the love that he deserves or necessitates. But regardless, again, like you mentioned, played so many games. They're dog tired going into that series on the road at Wrigley Field, day games. It's you're not playing in front of 4,000 fans like the Athletics. It's what, 30, 35,000. I mean, it's not an easy road environment.
No, it is. Okay, I think we should move on to the mailbag.
Yes, let's go to the mailbag from our buddy Vince.
Okay, let's do that right now.
Hey Ulises, hey Kev, it's Vince here again. Hope you've had a tremendous month of May. I know I have. Been some pretty impressive performances against some stiff competition. Question about the current state of the lineup. Love Brandon Lau. We know he's got a lot to offer leading forward, and his power and ability to get hot is undeniable. But considering how streaky he is it potentially time to look at shifting the lineup around? Been kind of pulling for Josh Lowe to be put in the cleanup spot. I just think with his ability to get hits in key situations recently, following up, obviously, the big three of Yandy, Wander, and Randy, just gives us an opportunity to break any game open early. Interested to hear what your thoughts are. Thanks, guys.
All right, Ulises, what's your take on this?
The Brandon Lau saga continues. He is just such a controversial player, isn't he?
Yeah.
For a guy that kind of keeps his head down and is not boasting around in cameras.
And again, it's not like he's being paid $30 million a year. He's got a very, very, very team-friendly deal.
What's the contract this year? 6?
Something like that.
I think
so.
So.
Even if he kept up these numbers, like if you extrapolate what he's doing right now, 202 batting average, 692 OPS, whatever it is to be exact, over the course of the season, he would still probably outplay that salary in terms of WAR and in terms of value. Just based on
I
the
think he
power
would
numbers,
be
the defense,
above.
the base running, and all that, and the clubhouse presence.
Yeah, I think he would be. Look, by the way, first, thank you, Vince, for being an everydayer. We support everydayers on the show, and thank you for supporting us by listening to us as well. First of all, I want to paint the good picture. Brandon Lau, this is a guy that has 40 homer potential. When you put that guy in the middle of the lineup, that other team's pitching staff is going to tread lightly. They might not want to pitch to him. They might not want to give good pitches to him. So they might want to give better pitches to the guy in front of him, Randy Arozarena, a Wander Franco, a Harold Ramirez, which means that if those three guys are getting better pitches, then they're going to be better productive hitters. If you look at Wander, if you look at Randy, if you look at Harold Ramirez, well, guess what? They all are doing pretty well. That's not to say that that's all because of Brandon Lau. No, but it's definitely one of the factors. And so you have to be very conscious of what he means in that lineup to the people surrounding him. That's number one.
Yes.
Number two, if you say that Brandon Lau is not struggling, you have to go get your eyes checked. And
have you seen some of the breaking balls and off speed that he's swung at?
And get some prescription. If you're saying Brandon Lau isn't, well, boy, I gotta tell you, you need to get a pair of these because he is struggling.
Those are the same people that are like, does 2 + 2 really equal 4? Because it could be 5.
Yeah, exactly. Like some flat earther type of conspiracy theory. Look, 204 average, 298 on base, 407 slug, a 705 OPS. That's not Brandon Lau. That's not what we expect from Brandon Lau. So he is definitely underperforming. He is definitely struggling. Hopefully, things are going to be better. I understand that if you look at his splits, May has been rough. May has been very rough, especially this year. In 92 plate appearances, 173 average, 261 on base, 284 slug. So May has been particularly rough. I put on Twitter yesterday after that home run in the Friendly Confines, he hadn't homered since May 17th in Queens. So it had been a minute since he had gone deep. So he's definitely struggling. To end the whole point, I would not dislike the idea of giving Brandon Lau just the 5th spot, the 6th spot. Like I don't think that's going to be more of a detriment to his mental state. Of the ego punch, of the ego dent that you can be like, wow, I'm not a 4th hitter. I'm being put down in lineup for 5th and 6th. Let me feel bad about myself. I think that hit is not as big as the one that he's like, man, I'm really struggling in the 4th spot. Oh man, I'm there again. Oh man, it's going to be stressful. It's going to be much pressure. I have to get something going today. Like, I think that's a bigger pressure. Like lower the temperature right now to Brandon to hit 5th spot, 6th spot, somewhere where he doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to put so much pressure on being the guy. I would 100% support that 5th or 6th spot right now for him.
What about the old Joe Madden approach of taking a struggling, slumping hitter and placing them in the leadoff spot?
Ooh, the whole Matt Joyce, Evan Longoria type old flashback.
Give him more at-bats, more pitches, more opportunities to have success and see what you can do with it.
I love that approach. I think that's a genius approach, except for the fact that we have the best leadoff hitter and basically, except for Ronald Acuna Jr. In baseball, in Yandy Diaz. I do not want to take Yandy off leadoff. Yandy isn't leading off because he's not playing and there's a righty on the mound. Sure. Put Brandon Lau leading off. That I would not mind. When there's a righty on the mound and Yandy Diaz isn't playing, sure, put Brandon Lau leading off. Other than that, I don't want to see anybody leading off other than Yandy, except if he's not playing. Josh Lowe has been doing pretty well, though. I like that. Or Harold Ramirez. That's pretty cool, too. But yeah, no, I don't know if you agree with my thesis of there's less pressure on him if he goes 5th or 6th rather than just keep pushing hey, you're the 4th guy. You're our guy.
No, I think that's fair. Although the lower you put him down in the order, the less opportunity that he has to be protected and to protect others. You're sandwiched between, I don't know, Harold Ramirez and Jose Siri or Christian Bethancourt, whatever it is, and compared to Randy Rosarena and Yandy Diaz and Wander Franco and all those guys. I guess the flip side or the issue I would have is placing Josh Lowe in the cleanup spot because, in small sample size, but his worst numbers are in the 4th spot and 5th spot in the order. Everywhere else, he's pretty much raking, whether it's leadoff or 8th or 6th, wherever it may be. And I also wouldn't necessarily want to put that undue pressure on a young player, a rookie, to be that cleanup hitter right away. So I'd be okay with, putting Brandon Lau lower in the order, but I'm not so sure if I'm ready or would be willing to put Josh Lowe in the cleanup spot, if that makes sense.
I think that's a tremendous idea. So I want to, in the comments right now on YouTube, I want you to put on the comments, not the live chat, on the comment section, I want you to put if you would lower Brandon Lau in the order to 5th or 6th. But I want you, if you say yes to that, I want you to tell me who you would put on that 4th spot, because Kevin is right. Are you really going to put a young, almost rookie type player like Josh Lowe with that pressure of like, hey, you're having a great season now?
And if it's not broke, if it's not broke, don't fix it with Josh Lowe. Like, I'd be kind of hesitant to upset the apple cart there, and whatever they're doing right now seems to be working. So
it's a good point.
Baseball players are very superstitious as well.
Yep. No, I like it. So if you're up for moving Brandon Lau in the order, then I gotta hear from you who you put in that 4th spot. But be very mindful that young players put in that situation can be very, very tough.
Yes. Cool. And speaking on the Joe Madden placing a struggling hitter in the leadoff spot, I was just trying to look up the strikeout rates of Longo and Matt Joyce, and yeah, I mean, I know Evan Longoria has struck out a lot, but I would have to guess or venture that Brandon Lau has a higher strikeout rate for his career than both those guys, just off the top of my head. So that would lead to some hesitancy there as well, among other reasons. There's certainly better leadoff candidates, but just some food for thought there. I wonder what the analytics team would have to say about that nowadays in this generation. So anyway, great question from Vince. Keep them coming. We love the voice memos. We have other mailbag questions that we'll try to run through and get to. But again, priority on the voice memos, 60 seconds or less. Vince Mapstone nailed the assignment, got an A for the assignment. You're accepted into Harvard, Yale. They accept anyone nowadays. So you're good to go. All right. With that, thank you all for listening to the Locked On Rays podcast. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel as well. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.